So who are the best Byleth units in Fire Emblem Engage? So before we go over who these units are, what does Byleth do? So Byleth gives magic and speed +3 at bond level 16, actually at bond level 14 and higher, and up to +12 luck at bond level 19. So you're looking at magic, speed, and luck. Now there's a few units who can take advantage of this, specifically of these stat boosts, but outside of stat boosts, you get the AoE dance, and certain unit types, certain class types will give you different bonuses for the AoE dance, and also there's instructing. So the best instructs, I would say, in dances would be Dragon for +3 to all the 7 stats. Backup is decent for +4 strength. Covert is really good for +5 speed. Mystical is decent for +4 magic. And Cavalry is actually interesting for +10 dex. So if you're running a lot of dex trigger units, you can get quite a bit of dex. You know, +10 dex is pretty substantial. So aside from that, different types get different weapons, and certain classes get access to interesting things. Like Mystical get access to Thyrsus, so they get +2 magic range with all spellbooks, which is pretty crazy. Other things aren't as useful. Like the armor weapon grants defense +6, res +3. This is interesting. May have damage, trigger percent equals dex. I've never run Byleth on an armor, but that is interesting. Defense and res increase, and you also get some speed, but armors are typically too slow to leverage it. But let's just go over what I've personally observed to be really good and what would make sense. All right, so Alcrest. So Alcrest, arguably his main class, his best class is Tier D Elite, and that is a covert, so he can give people speed +5 and be a utility. I would say he's like B tier. He gets the extra speed, he can leverage the magic for Radiant Bow, and he's not going to be like enemy phasing or like a hard carry or anything like this, but he'll be doubling more consistently and giving things speed +5 when instructing, and he's kind of like a filler unit that could just kind of chill out with the team, shoot down flyers, and then AoE dance as needed. He can also go for Brave Bow to refill Byleth, and he can instruct speed when he's not shooting down flyers or shooting at armors with a Radiant Bow. So I'd say he's B tier. Alear, I think, is S, just for the Dragon, +3 to all stats. So what you can do is you can run Alear as like a generic combat unit, and kind of just have Alear hang out and, you know, deal chip damage, help with combat. But then mostly what Alear would be going for would be the +7 or the +3 to all 7 stats dance plus the super instruct. So both of those are really good. Now obviously speed +5 is more than speed +3, but giving +3 to every single other stat, this also improves damage, durability, and so on, and reduces incoming crits, increases outgoing crits slightly. In terms of other things, like the actual combat, oh, let me turn this music down. It's kind of loud. All right, there we go. In terms of actual combat, this can be good if you invest in it. Like if you get like sword power and go for like a brave sword, you can go for doubling, so you quad. You can also punch, so you can get Alear's speed up high enough and maybe go for like flashing fist to like refill the Byleth pretty quickly. So I think this is one of the better builds. It's a low investment build, and you can make Alear combat unit or just have Alear be a utility. Now Alfred on Byleth. So Alfred isn't really good with magic, and his speed is okay on certain classes. He would probably just be like here. I don't think he really brings anything to the table to justify putting him on Byleth. Amber is kind of in a similar position. Now you can always put them on covert and have them speed +5 instruct. In the case of Amber though, he could probably go on like warrior, and then he just gets speed increase. So when he dances, he gives strength +4. So if you're running like a physical team, it could be okay. I'll put him like below Alcrest because he's a better combat unit than Alcrest on average. But the instruct he would probably be using is like a backup instruct, maybe a cav instruct, depending on what class you have him on. Also note the flying instruct is kind of dumb. It just gives res +5. Armored gives defense +5. So both of those are kind of like weaker compared to the other ones in terms of like team utility. Anna, I think, is probably one of the best units for this specifically. So it gives her increased damage, increased speed, and most importantly, plus 12 luck. And Anna's passive triggers on luck. So if you get luck plus 12 just by equipping Byleth, you can drastically increase the amount of money she makes when she gets kills. So she is arguably one of the best units for this, for that reason. And she can also AoE dance, and that's fine. But she also doubles as a combat unit who can make you money now. And that's very useful for min-maxing your entire team. Boucheron's definitely bad at magic, so he's not leveraging the stats. He'd probably be on like backup, maybe flying. So he would be probably a little bit, honestly I'm gonna put him like C tier. I don't think he'd be that good of a Byleth user. Bunay, I'll put him in D because he's too slow. So he's not gonna be doubling, so the speed doesn't matter. He can make use of the luck. Now, he has this meme build that people like to try where his passive allows him to keep a lunch, like a used lunch item. But in order for him to reset his engage meter, he needs Celica, which is like post chapter 20. So like this idea that he could do this like lunchbox reset build with high luck from Byleth and like luck plus 12 and all this stuff, it's just not gonna happen. Because you get it so late that it doesn't matter. And even then, like you can just reset it in a single turn by using like a brave weapon and getting hit. So there's really no advantage of using him. He's also very slow. Saline. So she's probably going to be on Mystical. Typically she's on Mystical or Cavalry, maybe Flying. And none of those are really top tier. And she's kind of slow. So I'm going to put her in like high or C tier. Because at least she leverages the magical damage and speed. Whereas these would just leverage it for speed. Chloe. Honestly, I think Chloe's up there. I think she's a little bit better. Well, she's better at combat. So Chloe could run Levin Sword, Griffin Knight, or Levin Sword Mage Knight, and she just gets more speed and damage, and then extra luck, which is more avoid. So she's very fast, so she tends to passively become an avoid tank. Now, in terms of the dance, her dance would just be like average because she's going to be on Cav or Flying. But in terms of being like a combat unit leveraging this, she'd be pretty good. And obviously she brings the AoE dance. In terms of the stat increases, it wouldn't be there. But she'd be such a good combat unit. It's definitely worth it. Alright, Citrine on Byleth. So Citrine would be Cav or Mystical, typically. You could also make her Flying if you want to make her a Griffin Knight. I don't know that she's the best Griffin Knight. She does have the magic for it, like the stat for it, but her speed isn't really that good. So her build is low and her speed is average, so she's hard to like get to doubling. So what do we want to do with her? She's definitely better than at combat, she's better than these on it. But for utility, I feel like Alcrest would be better. I'm going to put her in mid B. She's just too slow. If she was as fast as Chloe, I'd put her up there, but I don't think she benefits from builds that double. It's hard to speed fix her, so. Clan does have decent speed, and he's already on magic, so this would help him. I'll put him in like a little bit above Citrine. He would be decent. He would be able to double in one round semi-consistently. He would probably need sword power though on Levin Sword Mage Knight. Diamant typically is on backup, whether it's like Warrior or Successor. Strength plus 4 is decent. He doesn't leverage the magic increase. The luck increase doesn't matter to him. I'm gonna put him in like C. I don't think this helps him at all, and he doesn't really leverage the kit in any interesting way that's useful to your team. All right, Etier. Etier, honestly, this is a terrible emblem for her. She can't make use of the magic. The speed only slightly helps her. If you're gonna be going for doubling on Etier, she needs way more than plus 3 speed. Fogato, honestly, this is decent on him. I would say he's like here. Well, he's on Cav. Maybe he's like low B tier. Alright, so here's what he does. He's good at using Radiant Bow and Levin Sword. He's good at using them. He's not excellent. Actually, no, I'd say he's maybe here. He's about as fast as Clan, but he has better build. So he could actually use Levin Sword on Cupido, and he gets plus 3 magic, plus 3 speed. So he'd actually be able to leverage that. Now his Dex plus 10 Instruct depending on your team comp, could be good. Like if you're running like Ivy and Tamara, you're now getting more procs, or even Hortensia. You can increase. This song is actually kind of annoying. It's the song I wanted. Here, let's try this one. All right, want a chill song. I don't like the. It's like it's too much right now. All right, I don't want that song. It's starting to get insane. All right, so the dex plus 10 would be okay, but mostly you'd be getting a good combat unit that could one run himself. It's not as good as speed plus 5, but you'd get a good combat unit. That wouldn't be as good as these, I would say, because this makes you a ton of money and leverages the luck, so it like leverages Byleth to like the fullest. And this is just a better 11 sword user because she gets early sword power and has better magic than him. He could go on Mage Knight, but you need tome access, so that wouldn't be until later. So he's always going to have lower damage than these two because they can get on to Mage Knight early. Because you need to get, I think, Celica back in order to get tomes. Or no, you get Micaiah back and you get tome access. So that's post chapter 19. So that's like most of the middle game. So it's something to consider. All right, Fram. So Fram's interesting because when you put her on Mage Knight, she's actually kind of good. I'm going to put her on A tier. She's actually better than her brother on Mage Knight. She's just as fast, but she has better magic growth, if I recall correctly. And I have used her on Mage Knight and she was decent, but she doesn't make you money like Anna, and she has worse growths than Anna and worse bases, as far as I can tell. Goldmary on Byleth. So Goldmary is a physical tank that does need speed fixing if you want her to double, but she's going to need more than speed plus 3. So I feel like she doesn't leverage this kit at all in any meaningful way. I'll just put her in like middle of C tier. There's nothing she does that's useful on Byleth. There's no reason for her to use Byleth. She has bad magic, and her speed is too low to double unless you put her on a faster class. And she's never going to leverage the stats. And in terms of the instruct, she's not going to be leveraging that either. So I just feel like she's just not there. Because her best class, I would say, is Hero, and backup giving strength plus 4 while not taking advantage of any of the stats, including speed, because speed plus 3 is not enough for her to double. Like, even if you run speed plus 5 and then this speed plus 3, she still needs like 1 or 2 speed wings before she can start doubling most enemies. So, all right, Hortensia on Byleth. So this one actually makes sense. Now, Hortensia is a better Micaiah user. I would say she's like, I don't know. I actually think she's kind of bad on it. I feel like she's like here. I feel like him being speed plus 5 is better than what she brings, because her damage is low, so plus 3 damage isn't enough to get her into killing. On Sleipnir Rider, her damage isn't going to be that good. If you throw her on Sage, her magic gets much better. Her speed is decent, but her build is bad, so she needs more speed fixing. And her health is low, so if she gets attacked, she dies, which is very unfortunate. I don't think she's that good on it. Honestly, she's more of a utility unit. She can do combat, but it's not the best, and it needs like she needs damage fixing and some speed fixing to account for like the weight of Bolganone, and if she's going to be running like, you know, different tomes on like Sage or Mage Knight or something. Ivy. So Ivy, this is a logical thing, I would say. It's not the best thing. I would say it's probably about as good, maybe a little bit worse than Fram. Fram is fast enough to one round on Mage Knight. So if you're going for combat over utility, then Fram is better at Mage Knight than Ivy because of her speed, I would say. Ivy is quite slow. She has some build, which helps, but she is significantly slower than like Fram, Chloe, Anna. Now she has more bulk than them, so if she's on Lindworm, now if you put her on Mage Knight, she becomes faster. So you could argue she's like a little bit better than Fram on Mage Knight. Actually, I'll put her there. All right, so her combat's good, but then obviously on Mage Knight or Flyer, which are her main classes, like that's why Fram is low. You're not really getting value from the instruct. Now I think the gold amount you get from Anna offsets the value from instruct, because then you can buy more tonics, you can, you know, get more tier 4 wells, which means more SP for your team. So this is like a significant thing that I feel like people sleep on. Jade is a tank. She has no business running this. I don't think that tank would be very good, even with its Aegis shield. So grants defense plus 6, res plus 3. There's better things for tanks. She's not going to leverage the speed, like all the stats. The only thing that'll help her really of the stats is luck. and her instruct is going to be defense +5, which is not that useful anyways. So I don't think it's going to be very helpful. Kagetsu, he's a physical unit. He would just benefit from the speed. I don't think he's going to make good use of this, honestly. He can't really leverage the magic. I'll put him in C tier for this. He would mostly just want this for the speed for one rounding if he's like if he's shy from doubling. Same thing with like Lapis. He's not going to make good use of this. Louis, he's not going to make good use of this. Jean, depending on the class, he could be good. I'll just put him in like mid B tier. Depending on his class, he could be good, but he's more investment than like Clan. He's more investment than like all of these, so I'll put him on low B tier because you have to level him up a bit before he can get to these. Now he has to be leveled up too, but he's already on a class that doesn't require second ceiling, so he's still less investment than Jean. You get him earlier. Mavier. So Mavier is kind of magical in a way. His availability's bad though, so I'll just put him like mid C tier. He would be able to leverage. He could go on like Mage Knight and leverage the magic and the speed and just be like a combat unit. But there's better options, so I don't really recommend it. Marin tends to, so she starts off on Wolf Knight. If you wanted to put her on like Mage Knight, you kind of can. She has like she's like Chloe, but you can't get her on a magical class early because of the tome restriction. She doesn't have access to tome proficiency, so that's kind of an issue for her. So I don't really think she would be too good. Now, if you like run Wolf Knight, Levin Sword, Byleth, it's okay. But the thing is, if I'm running Byleth on a combat unit, I want the combat to be really good. So I'd say she's like here. Now, Fagato, I feel like is a little bit better than her on Levin Sword. I don't know, maybe they're kind of similar. I think his build is higher. It is kind of samey though. Maybe I should bump him down. Yeah, let's bump him down. All right, Linden. So Linden actually has decent stats, decent speed. He would be probably like here. Maybe Hortensia should move down. Now she can fly though, but a lot of these can run Griffin Knight too. So put her like here. Let's move her around. All right, Pandreo. So Pandreo on Byleth, I would say is up there with Anna. I only say it's a little bit worse because Anna makes you a ton of money, and he doesn't need the speed usually. He can like leverage it, but so here's the situation between Anna versus Pandreo. At least this is how I view it. Pandreo has no startup costs, so that's an advantage. Anna has higher damage though. She has higher magic than him and magic growth, so she will start off. Like if she's like the same level as him, she'll have higher magic than him and then just continue to have higher magic than him. So she needs less or no damage fixing. Whereas he might want a little bit of damage fixing or more engravings, whatever. More forges, maybe an engraving that fixes damage, something like that. She makes you a ton of money, especially on Byleth. He has higher build. He can run Siege Tome better than her because he has higher build, so he can be a Siege Sage better. So if you want that, he's better at that slightly. She is good at it, but he's better. She's better as a Mage Knight though, because she's much faster. Well, she's not that much faster. She's slightly faster than him, but has slightly lower build. So he generally has similar speed to her, but she just has more damage. So that's kind of like the way to view it. And he has no startup costs, but she makes you a ton of money. If you get her to like 30 to 40 luck, that's, 30 to 40% chance to get 500 gold per kill. And all things, being equal, assuming like my breakdown of these is accurate, this is just making you money and this is not. Now, if you're playing quickly, if you don't have time to raise Anna, if you're an LTCer, honestly, I feel like a lot of people that play quote unquote efficiently aren't LTCers, but tried to they cosplay as LTCers, where they'll like beat maps in like, I don't know, 5 to 10 turns and act like efficiency is super important. But you can still train up Anna in that amount of time. It just takes 2 chapters of her being a staff bot on Micaiah, using Great Sack when available, and then AoE healing when possible. And in those chapters, I beat those chapters. It's chapter 7 and 8. I beat those chapters in like, I don't know, 5 to 10 turns on average, and get Anna from level 5 to level 10 consistently. And then she just Master Seal, Second Seals, and is a Mage Knight. So I don't know. I feel like you could still acquire a Mage Knight Anna while playing efficiently, if that makes sense. Like, or at least faster than most people. Like 6 to 7 turns, you can still. And you could also take her to Jean's Paralog, have her Great Sack once or twice there to level her up. But I think he's the better Sage Siege. She's the better Mage Knight because she makes you money. Now, if they're both on Mage Knight, their performance is kind of similar, but she just makes you money, and he does not. And in terms of utility, I think Alear is one of the best for all the stats +3. And then Chloe is just kind of like not as much build as Pandreo, but a little bit more speed. So kind of similar speed, kind of similar magic. He has more bulk from what I can tell, and he can Sage Siege better than her, so that's a little bit of an edge. But I still think she's really good. All right, Panette. She is a physical crit nuke, so she would be bad on this. There's no reason. Risotto, he is a physical wyvern. There's no reason for him to be on this. Saphir. So Saphir, she doesn't really have magic. If you're looking for the instruct, she's on warrior. Her best classes are probably backups, so probably not the best. Probably like C tier, like somewhere in here. Not the best. Dancer, funny enough, he's actually one of the worst units for Byleth because he wants to be refreshed by the Dancer so that he can dance, 3 other units take their turn, and then you AoE dance, refresh 3 units plus your Dancer. That's what you want to do. So he's actually one of the worst units for Byleth, and for that reason I'm putting him at the absolute bottom so that people don't run Byleth on him because it's actually a bad idea to do so. Tamara, she's a physical tank. Backup, so I don't feel like she's good on Byleth either. I would not run. It doesn't really matter where she is in D tier here. I would not run her on this. It doesn't help her. Like, the speed is nice, but she doesn't really leverage magic. The luck can kind of help for tanking-ish, but backup, like, it doesn't leverage the stats. It doesn't leverage the instruct. The weapon you would get, the backup weapon is Blutgang, which is like a magical sword for some reason. I don't know why that is, but that's what it is. Vander, he would be bad on this. Vale would be good on this. You could run like Vale Griffin, Vale Mage Knight. If her availability was better, I'd put her higher, but I'll put her like high A tier. She's actually a really good combat unit, but you just get her super late. The Thieves. So the Thieves could run this because they can do the covert speed +5, which is nice. And they get speed plus, which helps them double, but it doesn't fix their damage. And the typical problem with daggers is they're good early to middle game, but then late game their damage falls off because there is no like dagger power. Thieves and Wolf Knights tend to have low strength because that is what the class has. And the thief units the game hands you have like average strength at best with average strength growth. So their strength never pops off. It's not really easy to fix their damage. So putting them on something that doesn't fix their damage and just gives them speed and utility is fine. But late game, all you would be using them for is like speed +5. So for that reason, I mean, maybe you can fix their damage. Maybe you could run like Gentility Plus on them and then flip your Erica unit to Bravery so they get +5 damage when attacking. So it's +10 when doubling. Maybe that helps them. Maybe that's enough. But I feel like they want other things for, dodge tanking. Now, the speed +5 is good, though, so at least put them in B tier with Alcrest, because they're all coverts that can contribute and add value to your team. What else? I think we're still the DLC guys now. All right, so Gregory, he's kind of slow. I think he's, like, really slow. He's, like, similar to Citrine, though. I'll just put him next to Citrine. I kind of, like, evaluate them based on how similar they are to existing units. She's a tank. She'd be bad at this. She is like a physical unit that I think has mixed growths. Now, let me look up her growths. If she has good magic growth, she'd be okay. As a combat unit, as a utility, she does have the dragon utility though. You could leave her on her base class, which is decent. She has dragon utility, so actually she should be good. Same thing with him. He has crit build. Crit build is probably easier to set up than doubling with the wrong weapon type. All right, so to be clear, Nell does have 25% magic growth, so she could potentially spec into magic, but on her base class, she has like the dragon poke damage with her stones, and she could also run like spears or like lances or whatever. But she does have the dragon instruct, so, and I do think these, oops, sorry, these are a little bit better than this. They're a higher level for free, and they have pretty good bases. Maybe this. So these are your dragons. Now Veil also is a dragon, so maybe she should get bumped up. Or no, her availability is bad though. You can get these early. Her availability is still bad. All right, and then she is basically a better Ivy in terms of combat. So I'll put her maybe in low, maybe above Chloe. So some of these are an S tier for damage, for combat. Some of them are an S tier for stat boosting. The +5 speed B tiers. The reason I put the +5 speed in B tier is in certain situations it could be better. Like if you're doing some kind of like LTC, or like you're trying to play as fast as possible, getting speed +5 is probably more value than having a good combat unit. Now, I think Anna's the best here because she has really good combat and makes you a ton of money, which boosts the effectiveness of your entire team. And that cannot be, like, that means you get more donations, which means more, you know, silver, iron, steel. You get more tier 4 wells, which means more SP. You can get more tonic, so you can like directly stat boost your units per map. Like, it cannot be, like, I can't emphasize it enough how good just getting tons of extra gold is. Especially, you know, and she can still AoE dance, so like she doesn't stat boost, so she's not leveraging the stat boost, but she boosts your entire team's effectiveness by making you a ton of money. And on average, at like 30% luck, if she's getting, you know, a few kills a map, like 10 to 15 kills a map, she should be making you like, you know, 2 to 4k per map. And then you also have to factor in all the paralogs. So if you do every single paralog, Anna can make you like +70 to 80k, maybe even more, which is absolutely insane. And it also works on infinite spawn enemies that have Void Curse. So she's one of the, I think she's the only unit in the game that can take Void Curse enemies, make them something very useful, and literally infinite farm for you if you want. So that's pretty broken. Now the other stat boost, I think the dragon stat boost is really good. I don't think these are that much better than these. For just raw utility. These are better combat units than Alear on average, I would say. And then these are just good combat units that can leverage the stat increase and also AoE dance as needed. And then these are just kind of really good combat units. And then these are kind of like average, like that's, you know, B tier. It's like average, maybe slightly above average. The speed is nice. Depending on how you view Byleth, maybe you move the speed. Maybe you just value the dance and the instruct. So depending on how your play style or how quickly you're playing, I could see the speed +5s moving up, or just having like an instruct speed +5 unit, you know, on your team. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoy this. I also live stream Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. We do different Fire Emblem games. It's always like a series though. So like right now, I'm doing a chat sabotage chaotic run where people just super chat small amounts to make me do stupid things. It's like completely insane. And there's all these like things on screen, so it's just like pure nonsense. But there's other runs where, you know, there's just like more standardized rules and there's not like a ton of visual noise on screen. So yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for checking us out. Peace.